Hello, how are you today? In this video, we will talk about reaction paper, its definition, difference between diary and a reaction paper, modern iterations, and the critical approaches in writing a reaction paper. What is a reaction paper? It is also known as response paper, usually requested by teachers so that you'll consider carefully what you think or feel about something you've read, watched, or seen. It is also a standard form of writing, which demands to provide an analysis and evaluation of a concrete piece. Moving on, we have the modern iterations of a reaction paper. When we say iterations, these are the other forms of a reaction paper. What can we get when reading a reaction paper? One expects to be informed and amused. It also helps us in decision making. It tells us that we are not alone in experiencing the world. It tells us about how to survive, what to avoid, and where to seek pleasure. It also helps us process our experience and see things that we weren't able to see on our own. To understand reaction paper better, let's see its difference from a diary. A diary is personal in significance while reaction paper is societal. Diary also enlightens oneself, and reaction paper, it enlightens one's fellow human beings. A diary is less formal, and reaction paper is formal. Diary is less descriptive, while reaction paper is more descriptive. Diary does not endeavor to persuade other people, while reaction paper persuades readers. Let's now move to the critical approaches in writing a critic. When we say critical approach, we identify the focus of analysis or evaluation in the text or on the subject at hand. What aspect of the subject should you focus on? Are you going to comment on the terms used, the title, the characters or symbolisms used? Or are you going to evaluate the piece considering how men or women are being treated in the subject? Or are we going to look into social issues indicated in the movie or on the text or in any subject which we wish to evaluate? Let's have the first approach. We have the formalism. This claims that literary works contain intrinsic properties and treats each work as a distinct work of art. In formalism, we can look into the elements of the subject at hand. For example, movie, we look into its cinematography, sound effects, dialogues, and others. For painting, we can look into medium used in painting, or we can look at the way the artist used arts and design elements like line, color, space, light, and shape. For restaurant, we can look into its ambience, menu, price, the service crew. For poem, we can look into images or imagery, figures of speech, rhymes, lines. For story, we can look into the title, the characters, the plot. For essay, we can look into the unity of the work, the title, the message. For gadgets, we can look into the functions, the specs, price, the durability. Let's take a look at the sample formalist critic on Dead Stars by Paz Marquez. In this reaction paper, the analysis is focused on the title Dead Stars, which represents Alfredo's love for Julia. It's dead stars because there's no way they could have each other forever. In this slide, the review is focused on the names of the characters. It is stated here that their names suggest their fate in the story. Let's have, for example, Alfredo. It is someone who is wise. So in the story, he is a person who counsels. Julia refers to someone who is youthful. In the story, Julia portrayed a young and beautiful lady. Let's have the second approach. We have the feminist criticism. It focuses on how literature presents women as subjects of socio-political, psychological, and economic oppression. It reveals how aspects of our culture are patriarchal, which means that men are superior than women. When we use feminist criticism, we look into the following aspects: how gender equality is presented in the text, how gender issues are presented on the subject being analyzed. Let's have this sample feminist critique of Dead Stars. Let us analyze some of the sentences. Let's see the first sentence. The story is a study of power imbalance brought about by gender. The words power imbalance brought about by gender. Another is Don Julian and the judge are portrayed as the male leaders of the household, taking up lofty professions such as business and law, while the women are portrayed accomplishing domestic tasks such as tending to children and preparing food. Let's have the last sentence. The most noteworthy display of imbalance in power, however, lies on the central theme of Alfredo's love for Julia as simply a dead star. In this paragraph, let's see the last sentence. The story reflects how men are viewed to dominate not only in the household, but also in their relationship with women. Let's now move to the third approach. It is the reader response criticism. This is concerned with the reviewer's reaction as an audience of a work. This claims that reader's role cannot be separated from the understanding of the work. A text does not have meaning until the reader reads it and interprets it. When using the reader response criticism, we look into the following aspects: interaction between the reader and the text in creating meaning, and impact of reader's delivery of sounds and visuals on enhancing and changing meaning. Let's take a look at the sample reader response critique of Dead Star. Let's see some sentences expressing the reaction of the writer or of the reader in this paragraph. This one. While Alfredo is the center of the story, as a woman reader, it is hard not to feel greatly for Esperanza. Esperanza can only be seen through the perspective of Alfredo. This does a disservice to her, as we can only know her through the descriptions of someone who does not love her anymore. Let us also take a look at the last sentence. While the end certainly evokes a feeling of loss at Alfredo's epiphany, it is the feeling of betrayal for Esperanza that stays. Let's now have the last approach. It is the Marxist criticism. The word Marxist is a social, political, and economic theory originated by Karl Marx, which focuses on the struggle between capitalists and the working class. Marxist criticism is concerned with differences between economic classes and implications of a capitalist system, such as the continuing conflicts between the working class and the elite. When we use the Marxist criticism, we look into the following aspects: social class as represented in the work, social class of the writer or creator, the social class of the characters, and conflicts and interactions between economic classes. Let's see this sample Marxist criticism of Dead Stars. Let's see sentences where Marxist criticism is being exemplified. Let's have the first sentence. The imbalanced societal power play is evident in the story in the form of the treatment of the characters based on their class. In the last sentence, we have, despite the same circumstances, the two people are regarded differently based on their positions in life. So we are now done with the discussion of the four approaches. Let us now have the recap. What are the four approaches again? We have the Formalism, Feminist Criticism, Reader Response Criticism, and the Marxist Criticism. Let's have a short comprehension check. Identify whether the statement is true or false. For number 1, we have reading a reaction paper helps us in decision making. Is this true or false? The answer is true. For number 2, reader response criticism is concerned with the reviewer's reaction as an audience of a work. What's your answer? The answer is true. For number 3, feminist criticism involves the analysis of the intrinsic features of a text. Is this true or false? This is false, because when we say intrinsic features, we are referring to the formalism. Number 4, Marxist criticism is concerned with differences between economic classes, implications of a capitalist system. This is true. Number 5, formalism claims that the key to understanding a text is through the text itself. What's your answer? This is true. I hope you will learn something from this video. For our references, we have, it's only reference, English for academic and professional purposes for senior high school by Jesse S. Barrot, PhD, and Mr. Philip Chan, F. Sipasyo. Thank you so much and God bless everyone. Bye-bye.